So Michelle Obama has been out in the streets giving all manner of terrible relationship advice. I want you to breathe. I want you to breathe. I want you to breathe. Hello, friends. Welcome back. We're Black and Curious. I'm Kendrin.
What up? What up? It is Deja. How y'all doing?
Yes, and if you've not been here before, we do a cross section of pop culture in real life. And if that sounds like something you're interested in, we're here multiple times a week. So go ahead and subscribe to our channel and like this video in advance. We're talking maybe a controversial take. You know what? I think it's controversial and then it's also not controversial. I think there's two camps on this one. There's a controversial camp, and then other people are just like, absolutely not. So Michelle Obama has been out in the streets giving all manner of terrible relationship advice. Some people would say it's terrible. Some people would say it is not terrible. I am in the it is terrible camp.
Oh shit.
So basically she said that, there's so many clips. Maybe I'll find some and drop them down in the description box. But one of the clips was like she was in an unhappy marriage for like 10 years. Which is a really long time to be unhappy. Like basically somebody was asking her, I believe, how do you make it so long? And it's like you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and you also have to be kind of just willing to sacrifice. And I want to say that that is bad advice. Because
I am listening, Fred. I don't know nothing about this. I'm listening to
Michelle Obama, yes, her husband ultimately did become the president, but like that is literally
not the norm.
Greater than lottery. You have a better shot at playing and winning Powerball this weekend than for that to happen to you. Like, and like, yes, obviously that is a large scale level of things, but I just think it is dangerous, especially when you're talking to, and her message she has been saying is it's been tailored toward young women. And I think it's very dangerous when you're telling young women to like forego their ambitions in the way that she did to support their partner.
But like, okay, all right then.
Okay, and I'm gonna give you some
I'm
more
like,
examples. So
and
maybe you
there it
can chime
is.
in.
Like,
And I'm gonna give you some more examples so maybe you can chime in. So I read her book. I read Becoming. I did not read the second book, but I did read Becoming. And
I
there
didn't
were
even know it
moments.
was the second book. I thought it was only the one, child.
Yes, she's on it. She's on a book tour. That's where all of these takes are coming from. Um, yes. So
Okay, good to
I
know.
have not, for the sake of, transparency, I have not read the second book. I'm not sure that I'm going to read the second book, but I have not read it yet. But I did read Becoming, and I don't know that I took from Becoming what she intended for people to take from Becoming.
But
She
what you got,
sacrificed.
girl?
She sacrificed a lot. She sacrificed a lot. Like she, was working at a law firm. She didn't really care for the law firm job anyway, so she was looking for something else. But she had to quit her job so that he could so that they could date, because she was his superior in some ways.
Huh? Child, I
Yes,
didn't know that. I didn't know
he
she.
was
I
an
thought she
intern.
quit because she wanted to like support his campaign, not because they were
No,
together.
no. When they got together, she had to transition jobs because they were in a workplace situation, and it was, I guess, inappropriate. I don't know if she was his superior. I don't remember that particularly, but she was definitely higher ranked in the law firm than he was. Like he was just coming in to the law firm, and she was already there and established.
Got it. Okay.
So, and then uh yes, she quit her other career. Um, and that's where she met, like, I feel one of them, either Valerie Jarrett or the other lady. Anyways, she met one of those people through her next round of careers, which was I want to say at a university. Um, and she quit that job that she seemed to really like to support his
campaign
ambitions, his
stuff, yeah.
political ambitions. Um, she talks a lot about how he left her to basically be a single parent because
No,
he
he
was
was in
out.
DC, right?
Yeah, not only that, but like because he had to blow some steam off after work and go play basketball. Like he wasn't coming home to the kids, and she talks about how she had to like keep the kids' schedule. She used to get irritated with him because he wasn't coming home. He was going to blow off steam, going to the gym or whatever after work. And so she was just leaving everything was falling on her. And so she talks about how she was like, in order to stop being so resentful, she basically kept the kids' schedule the same and was like, if you get here and see your kids, you get here. If you don't, you don't. But basically, she was a single parent even before he went to Washington.
So I mean,
One more example. One more example. Early, and then I'm going to let you talk. Early into the marriage, very early into the marriage, he ran off and like went to, I want to say like Indonesia or somewhere to write a book. It just like was like, I can't do this at home in this office, so I'm gonna need some time. And just like was like, all right, I'm going to Indonesia for several months to go
he
write
pulled
this
a
book.
Marcel.
It very Marceau vibes. So, anyways, all of this to say, like, I'm hearing all these takes and people getting upset, and I'm like, y'all clearly didn't read the book because, and that's fine. It's a very long book. It's very lengthy, and there was a lot of good in there, and it like very. She was very thoughtful about the entire thing, and she was very like deliberate and considered in the book, which I appreciate, and I like hearing about her early life. Um, but she gave up a lot, and she's just now getting it back in some ways on the back end, which is also debatable. But she's just now getting it back now that they don't have kids in the house, and that does not always work for everybody. And I don't think it's a good example. I don't think it's a good advice to give to the majority. Like your exception is not a good advice for the majority. That's what I'm trying to say.
So here's the thing. I feel that's a tagline for me these days. One, but I feel like in hearing this, she just gives heavy Gen X vibes in like the
Mm.
generations before her.
Okay, say
Because
more about that.
that's what we as Black women and just women in general, I would even dare to say, we're taught that this is what you're supposed to be as
Mm.
like a wife and mother.
Mm-hmm.
You are the one that's going to sacrifice all the things so that
Mm-hmm.
your household can remain intact.
Mm.
Um, and to the point of like, as a child, I'm not gonna lie to you, like and who didn't, but like I loved the Cosby Show. But
Mm-hmm.
if you really watch that show and that series, it was clear that Claire gave up her time and like her studies and like putting off her going into law school and being like a partner in the law firm and all that stuff so that he could go to medical school, and she was at home with the kids. And then there was, like when she finally became partner, I want to say like either Vanessa was getting ready to go off to college or it was Theo that was in college and she was becoming partner at that point. But by then she had already had 3 kids that were like, you know what I mean? She had Vanessa and Rudy
Rudy.
still at home, but
Yeah.
the other 3 were like fully grown adults.
Mm-hmm.
So the I don't know that for me personally, I don't know that I would say that this shit is bad advice. I would just be like, you know what? You are of that generation of people who believe that this is the way that you're supposed to live your
Mm.
life.
You're
And
being generous.
that was okay for you. It may not be okay for me as a millennial and then
Yeah.
those who come after us.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yes, that is the most generous reading of this advice. I agree with you on
Yeah.
that.
Because I'm like,
I guess what
I can
okay.
I'll have respect for her forever and always.
Of course, of course.
um and even her opinions about like what she did and how she did it and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
But I think what needs to be stated in this when these sound bites that we have is that, like if I'm speaking as her, I'm of this generation where this is what I knew.
Which is what I was getting ready to say also.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't take issue with I had no issue with her story. I read the book. I felt a way, like I was very much like I couldn't be me. That's how
Right.
I felt when I read the book. Like certain parts, I was just like, wow, I would not have made it. But I I take issue with offering that as advice to younger women who are, you know,
Impressionable.
and also like, yeah, and look to you as sort of an authority. Like I don't recommend. I don't think that's
Don't do
good
that.
advice. I don't think that's good. I don't think that's good advice. I'm sorry. I don't think that's good advice at all. And
Yeah.
I just feel like you said, if it was couched in a bigger conversation about like generations and all of that stuff, but she has said explicitly that this is geared toward younger women, and I don't think that this is good advice for younger women. I don't.
I hear you. I think I would, you know what? I would change that and say, not that it is bad advice, right? I think that it is advice that you take the pieces out of it that
Yes.
resonate for you.
Yes.
So like
I'll
if
give
it
you that.
makes sense to you to, like transition what it is that you have going on in your relationship and in your life
Mhm.
in order for your family to succeed, then you take those bits of it, but not like full on sacrifice yourself, you become the sole parent,
Yeah.
you do X, Y, and Z, because that is not the world we live in anymore.
Yeah. And I would go further and say, and I think Demetria actually said this on Rational and Respectable too, is like, I hope that somewhere along the line that was reciprocated, you know,
Yeah, she did say that. Yeah.
um, where you're not just telling people to sacrifice and there's no sacrifice coming back in the other direction.
Hello.
Um,
That part.
if you're ambitious, if you're in a partnership where both people are ambitious, there should be agreement about, okay, well, I'm going to take the L right now so that you can so that you can run later. Um,
Mm-hmm.
or some sort of workaround or whatever. But this idea that like one person has to do it all is, I think, is a bit outdated. And to your point, and also like I think, like you said, there are sacrifices to be made in any relationship, and I think that that's just the truth. And so that part of it, yes, but like advising people, telling people that you were miserable for 10 years, like 10 years is a long time.
Mm-hmm.
10 years is a long time to be miserable with a person.
I feel like you can say that and like turn it in a way that you say, this is what I did. I was miserable for
Yes.
this amount of time.
Yes.
I'm not saying that that is the norm and then that you should do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
I'm speaking from a place of this is what happened and this is the experience I had out of it.
Yes.
And I think that those things get lost in translation if
Yes.
people don't have the ability to like dissect that out of it and be like,
Right.
okay, well, she did, don't mean I got to. Just
Yeah.
means it's a possibility in relationships. Sometimes people
Right.
will be unhappy for this amount of time, but it don't mean
Yeah.
that I personally or anyone in my group should be out here suffering to
Yeah.
be in a relationship with somebody
Agreed.
else.
And also I think it's different because she's looking at it in retrospect. She's kind of on the other side of it now and saying like, "Oh, this is all the stuff I went through." And it's like, yeah, and like you can say now that you've been married for what, 30 years or whatever, and
Mhm.
that's good, I guess. Like, and
But
I think we talked about it in the past where like marriage is not, I don't feel like it has to be forever to be successful. So there's that. But yeah, I think when you're looking at it in retrospect, 10 years out of 30 years, or out of, I don't remember how long they've been married, but out of that amount of time, maybe that doesn't feel like a lot of a sacrifice. But when you're in it, I think 10 years is a long time to be miserable at anything,
mhm.
especially in the context of like, you know, sorry to take a morbid turn, everybody doesn't make it. So what if
True.
your marriage is only 11 years and you've been miserable for 10, and one of the partners moves on, gets sick, whatever, and you've been in an 11-year marriage. and you've been miserable for 10. Like that's a gamble. That is a hell of a gamble
Mhm.
on what you think the outcome of your life is going to be tied to this person.
Mhm.
So obviously, I'm saying, I guess my thought process in all of this is you're making a hell of a gamble, going through all of this, and you're betting on your person, and that bet may or may not pay off.
Yeah.
It paid off for her, yeah, but I think that's a big bet, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but I think too, if you're betting in that way, it's not just on them, it's betting on y'all.
Betting
Like,
on
can
y'all
we
and betting on the
withstand
relationship.
yeah, like, can we
Yeah.
withstand this point?
Yeah.
But I also think, as you were speaking, I was thinking about, you know what, like, they are, um and I always feel like I'm bashing them, but I'm not. This is not a bash session whatsoever. But like
Oh,
people of Gen X and prior didn't have the emotional resources that we have now. So it speaks to why you would be in a relationship and unhappy for a
yeah.
decade.
Yeah,
You
we
know what I
talk about
mean?
this all the time of like our bandwidth being different even from our parents, and
Absolutely.
just being like, "Oof, good lord." You know, we have different, and I think we talked about this in a different conversation about therapy and dealing with people who haven't been in therapy. And it's just like,
Them untherapied folks are something else.
my God, today. So, yes, I think you're right. And we are interrogating our lives and our self care and our happiness and prioritizing it in a way I don't feel was maybe done so much in the past.
No, because they didn't know that these things, they didn't know that they had options.
Yeah.
There
So,
was no access. So I like a lot of like for me personally, and to take it away from Michelle Obama, but just looking
yeah.
at like the elders in my own life, I have a lot more grace now at the age that I am now,
Hmm.
for these people because like y'all didn't know what the hell was going on with yourself,
Not a
let
thing.
alone how to be in union and deal with somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what
So,
I'm saying? Like
yeah.
it wasn't modeled in your home. Like
Hmm.
it within my own family personally, like everybody is horrible communicators. Does nobody communicate? It is I'm mad and I'm gonna shut you down, I'm gonna slam this door and we're not gonna talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't operate that way. I did for a long time. But
Yeah.
like that is you carrying sickness. And I think to that point, like our Gen X family members in prior, because I don't remember, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's the baby boomers before them.
Boomers. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like the Gen X and the boomers before that, they don't realize that the anger and the sadness and the depression and all those emotions have equated to some of the health issues that they might have today. But
Mm-hmm.
you can't tell them that because then here you come, the millennial who think you know every goddamn thing. You know what I
Right.
mean?
And
Like
it's also why, like, this is again, sorry to take a morbid turn. It's also why, some people's partners, of course, they're sad to see their partners go, but their partners die, especially the women, their husbands
and they
pass
be
away,
relieved.
and they be out here living a life, and they be out
Hello,
here
like
in,
you might be sad in the moment, but you be relieved. Hell, I can remember. I'm sorry to cut you off, but you really just brought something back to the top of my
yeah.
mind.
Mhm.
And so, like, God rest my auntie, so I miss you down to your socks, girl. But she told me flat out, I would never get married again. What? Never. No, absolutely the f not. For what? Why? She was like, that was servitude. And I was like, huh?
It's labor, and that's why I'm saying, advising younger women who are more evolved, just to wrap this conversation up, to a life of servitude.
In the words of Michelle Jones, girl, we miss you.
Because that's what you did, and because
That's what was
you
shown
won
to
the
you.
lottery. You literally won the lottery, and it worked out for you, and now you making bag on top of bag on top of bag, but you won the lottery. Like, how many men,
How
or
many
how many
people win the
people,
lottery? Shit.
right? And also, how many people, they get divorced for whatever reason. It's too much, whatever. And it's like, you made a gamble, you won the gamble, but a lot of people don't win the gamble. And I think
And don't.
advising people as though the gamble is a certainty is dangerous and problematic. So that's why I want to have this larger conversation. Y'all, please drop down in the comments and tell us what you think about this tour that Forever Flotus is on. And have you any thoughts about the advice that she has been given to the youth? Uh
I'm just saying, y'all, like, you just gotta have grace for these older people. And not that like I'm so much younger than the Obamas, but like you just gotta have grace for them. The way that they think and speak and they move it through the world,
my
this is all that they know.
God.
And
And I
even
have
though
grace. I do have grace. Like I said, when I read the book, I was like, girl, not me. Um, but this whole second plug of like, and again, people being shocked about it. I'm like, y'all clearly didn't read the book because clearly all of this was already laid out that this is how their relationship went. So, it was very much like, okay, girl, I wouldn't give that as advice, is what I'm saying. Like, I would not give hardship as an advice. I'm sorry, I just wouldn't.
girl, you know what? We just gonna wrap this.
Just me. Maybe it's just me. I'm happy for that to be just me. Okay.
I mean, I am in agreement, but we could have an offline conversation. All right, y'all. So drop down in the comments, let us know if you read the book, what your thoughts were, if you are in the same stance as Kendra and that it wasn't for you. And we'll see you in the next conversation. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we will talk to you later. Bye, y'all.